You're listening to In Kap We Trust for the Always Next Year Podcast Studio Network. You can find the team on our Twitter at ANYPodcast or on our website, www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. And now, to bring us in, the Jackdaws.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such jig over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son, still happy life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of In Kap We Trust here at the Always Next Year Podcast. I'm your host, Shane, and I'm joined, as always, by Rob. Rob, you feeling entitled today?
I'm feeling a little bit entitled.
I'm feeling a lot bit entitled. Gotta say, Sean Rodriguez, a little bit of an ass. You said that you had a rant for this man, so for those of you guys who, I don't know, do not look at social media or watch post games of any kind, like myself, initially, I was immune to this. I did not watch the postgame, so I did not initially see it. But Sean Rodriguez, you can tell he was kind of coming to the defense of Rhys there. Rhys is obviously going through some stuff out there on the baseball field, but he used some choice words that obviously did not sit well with Philadelphia, calling us entitled and choosing to ignore certain fans who boo. Let's hear your rant, because this guy was an ass.
If you can't deal with the booing, don't fucking play here. I mean, it's us, the fans, who we pay the money for tickets to go to the games. We pay for parking. We pay for food, concessions, all that kind of stuff. We pay hundreds of dollars to have some of these guys' names on the back of our jerseys. We have the right to be disappointed in our players when they're not performing, and we have the right to voice that disappointment. And let me just say this. When we boo a player, it's not because we hate the guy. It's not because we think that he sucks. Well, sometimes it is because we hate him. It's not because we think that he sucks, though. If we boo a guy, it's because we know what that player is capable of, and we're disappointed that they're not living up to it. Booing, I think, it's our way of saying, we know you're better than this. Get your shit together. Start playing like the way you're capable of playing. So when we boo Rhys, it's not saying, oh, Rhys sucks. It's us saying Rhys could be so much better than this, and we need him to start playing that way as soon as possible. Because the way that he's been playing since the All-Star break, and including last night with that terrible error that cost the Phillies the game, essentially, it's unacceptable. And he's supposed to be one of the star players. He's hitting .233 right now. He has, one home run since the All-Star break?
Two.
He hit the one over the weekend in Miami. He comes up with that terrible error, like I said last night. That's completely unacceptable from a guy who's supposed to be a star player, and we have every right to hold him accountable for that.
As public figures and as athletes that are performing a source of entertainment for all of their fans in their local cities and surrounding cities and cities all across the country, that is what you get. You don't get to sit there and win a World Series ring and have us parade you down Broad Street in excitement if you can't also handle the fact that at times, if you blow, we are 100% going to let you know about it, just as you said. Right now, and again, I do firmly believe that this was not necessarily Sean Rodriguez coming to the defense of Sean Rodriguez type of things. Like, he is a role player. He is not, him getting booed here in Philadelphia really doesn't fucking change anything for him. He is not a Rhys Hoskins. I do think that he was coming to the defense of a Rhys. It was already reported that there were, I think it was like a stare-off between Rhys and a guy behind home plate, an arguing match from a different fan. Like, Rhys is struggling right now, and he is hearing all the noise in a way that you do not want your star players to hear. You got to be able to shut that shit out, and he can't. Rodriguez was coming to his defense.
You don't want your star players to hear that stuff, but it's up to the star players to change it.
It is.
I mean, that's something that comes with the territory when you're playing on a major league contract making millions of dollars. I'm not sure how much Rhys is making right now. I think he's still on his rookie deal.
I think he's still under $1 million.
Yeah, but he's still making a lot of money, and he's going to make a lot more once he signs his first big contract. And that's something that comes with the territory of that. You're going to have to deal with it. And it's not just here in Philadelphia. It's in other big markets. In Boston. It's in New York. It's in L.A. It's not something that's, just Philadelphia that does that. Maybe we do it a little bit more. But like I said, it's something that comes with the territory, and you have to, when you put pen to paper, you have to be willing to accept that.
Yeah, I think anytime you sign a contract, major market city, minor market city, it really doesn't matter. You were expected to come in here and produce, to a level that you or I, as podcast hosts, could not possibly do. I'm pretty sure I could hit a $118 right now in Major League Baseball. I think you could too. I've seen you swing. As long as you don't have to throw a baseball,
I might hit 100.
I think you're okay.
I might match Aaron Nola average wise.
You might even look more comfortable in the box.
I'll look a lot more comfortable in the box. It doesn't mean I'll be more successful. I might hit a ball further than the outer edge of the infield. Like, I think that's the furthest he's hit one this year.
Quite possibly. I don't know. He's got an RBI or two in one of his last starts. So here's a question that I had seen across. It was a take throughout Twitter, and I'm going to formulate it as a question to you. Do you think, had this message come from an Andrew McCutchen or someone like that it would be received differently by the fans here in Philadelphia?
It would be received a little bit differently in that I don't think Andrew McCutchen would get booed his next time up to the plate after saying that. That being said, though, I think across social media and just across the fan base in general, people still wouldn't take too kindly to it. People would still be like, well, why is this guy coming out and saying this? He's getting paid millions of dollars. He should be a bit more professional and know what to expect here. And that being said, I don't think Andrew McCutchen would say something like that because
players like him.
He's the consummate professional.
Certainly. I think everyone's point, though, is the fact that when you take a look at a guy like Sean Rodriguez, who should not be on a major league roster, certainly should not be in Philadelphia. I don't know what he's got on Gabe Kapler at this point, but it's clearly something.
He's got a walk-off home run on him now.
Now he has one walk-off home run. But he isn't the guy that should be speaking about that. If anyone should be speaking, honestly, it should be Rhys Hoskins. If it is getting to him that much, and he needs to make some kind of a statement on his own behalf or behalf of the team and their struggles, okay. Like, I'm not going to be happy about it, but I'm going to hear it a little differently. You take a look at Sean Rodriguez, that's like Jake Arrieta last year calling out Gabe Kapler and the analytics between how they're, formulating or using their information to strategically set up their defense, and they were doing it bad. Last year, if you remember the interview, he had kind of snapped at a reporter. They said, well, how do you fix it? And he goes, hell if I know. It's not my job. Copy the best. That's what I would do. And people were like, well, thank God someone's saying it, but it really shouldn't be Jake Arrieta, a pitcher once every fifth day. I find it interesting to sit here and break down how people receive information based on who was giving it to them. And I feel like Sean Rodriguez was up there with about the worst people on our 25-man that could have said what he said. I think that
he's probably the worst at this point.
That's what I'm saying.
Now that some of those other worst guys are on the DL or on the IL, whatever you want to call it.
True. So Sean Rodriguez, first of all, everyone who has not yet heard the interview, he's got such a smug look about him. I don't know if it's because he's got that ridiculous man bun, but he is so smug. And even last night when he got hit by that pitch in the elbow and he got cheered for getting hit by a pitch and he laughed his way down to first base and smiled about it, I was like, you know what, I kind of want you to get hit again. Like, just so it sinks the fuck in. But
he looks like one of those freaking annoying jackass hippies. He really does.
I don't know, man. He's, to me, at this juncture, he is an unlikable player. He served a purpose for a little bit there. We badly needed a right-handed bat that could hit left-handed pitching off the bench, and there was the thought that he could provide that, and he can to some extent.
There was a point earlier in the season where he's playing some decent ball off the bench, hitting close to like 250-ish, but then he went into that slide where he went 1 for 20, and we see what he is now.
Yeah, like I said, he was just the wrong person to express that message. So Sean Rodriguez, forever now a Philly villain. So
Yeah.
good for you. Also, Jason Kelsey. No one likes us, we don't care. Some bum with a man bum criticizes us, and suddenly we all give a shit. That's amazing. We are soft as fuck. We are so soft.
Oh, man.
All right, on to better news. Baby Harper's born. Name is Crew Aaron Harper.
Interesting first name.
Weird as hell. I know a lot of people are sitting there saying, oh, that's badass, that's this, that. I mean, I don't really care what the hell anyone gets named. George Costanza wanted to name a kid 7. And I respect the hell out of that. Because no one on the planet is going to be named 7.
I felt bad for the kid because you can't really shorten Crew to anything.
What do you need to shorten it to?
I don't know. I mean, what if he doesn't like it and he wants like a shortened version of his name like most people go with?
Just go by Aaron. That's his middle name. Oh, even that's spelled weird. Harper's such a strange guy, but but congratulations to he and his wife, their family. Baby's healthy.
Christened the baby with a home run the other night too.
Definitely cool. I definitely dig like the excitement level that Gabe Kapler was showing when talking about Bryce being a dad now. I was like, it's borderline adorable, but you can't use that word because Gabe Kapler's all hulked out all the time. You see veins in every part of his goddamn body. And it's just weird. But like, it's funny seeing the human aspect of some of these players talking about things beyond baseball and how important it is to them as people and what kind of an impact it may have on their game on the field. And Bryce Harper has been, for all of the quote-unquote kind of baggage that people claimed he was going to come with in Philadelphia, not a good teammate, doesn't work hard, this, that, and the other, uncoachable, all these different things. He's certainly proved to not be any of that. And hearing him talk about his kid, being born, being able to be there for it, and immediately saying, we're so happy that, that his wife's healthy, the baby's healthy, we got through it, and how excited he was to be a dad. And like, it takes you out of baseball for a moment, and it makes you focus on the human being and focus on Bryce Harper. I could not be more impressed with the way that Bryce Harper's handled himself so far during his first year of a 13-year contract here in Philadelphia. What are your thoughts on Bryce Harper at this point?
Well, first off, let me ask, do you think that the fact that he knew that he was going to have a kid, that his wife was pregnant, do you think that maybe that helped him mature a little bit as a player? Maybe he wasn't such a great locker room guy down in D.C., but, right around the time that, a little bit before he signed with the Phillies is when he found out that his wife was pregnant. Maybe that helped him mature into a better person and thus a better teammate, a better locker room person here in Philly.
I think a lot goes into it. I think when you willingly sign the duration of your professional career to one city and to arguably one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult, sports city in the entire country, I feel like if ever there was an opportunity to rewrite who and what you are as a player and the perception of you as a human being, you kind of got to go overboard with it, and this is the place to do it. This is the time to do it. And I feel like everything kind of happening at once for him, getting his lifelong contract at this point, essentially for the duration of his career, finds out that his wife is pregnant, starting over, and having to sit here and look at things beyond the game that has basically controlled his life since he was a little kid. I think that it allows him for the first time in a long time to be a human being beyond a baseball player. And I think that's what's super cool.
Yeah, I think it all really kind of came together with him, for him. His wife getting pregnant, signing the big contract, planting the seeds, as he said, here in Philadelphia.
Yep.
I think that it all kind of came together for him, and to him, it was probably kind of a maturing, a growing up kind of moment. Maybe he was a little bit immature during his days down in D.C., and I think maybe this was the turning point where he said to himself that he needs to grow up. He needs to be a man. He needs to start acting, as mature as he should be. And he's shown that so far this season. There haven't been any issues with him. He's been a stand-up teammate, stand-up player. He's been great with the media here, which is kind of hard to do for some people. And he's, despite his struggles, he's managed to keep a level head throughout the season. He's really played well of late when the teams needed him to because nobody else has. I'm really pleasantly surprised and encouraged by the way that he's handled himself so far this season.
So one of the things that always gets me about star players, coaches, anything, it really doesn't matter. When you are such a social and public figure, you're inevitably going to be defined more so about the things that you do wrong than the things that you do right. or the things that you don't do quite as well versus the things that you do exceptionally well. And I feel like it's a sexier story all the time for people to talk about the mistake or talk about the way that you answered this question or your decision in an emotional moment on a baseball field. When you charge the mound and decide you're going to throw your helmet and throw a fist, that's what's going to follow him. When you get choked out by Jonathan Papelbon, like that's what follows you. Clown question. Like people remember those instances because they were sexier stories than any of his big hits in the 7th inning on. They were sexier stories than him getting himself out of a slump and maybe recognizing a different hitting coach. Like he loved working with I'm blanking on his name right now. I think he's a third base coach over in Oakland.
Matt Williams.
Yeah. He gives credit where it's due in certain places, and there's this show and sense of maturity that I feel like he's always had, but it's not a sexy story because baseball still needs a villain. That's good. He plays that pretty well in emotional moments. Now, we haven't really seen that in Philadelphia so far, outside of one ejection. But I feel like maybe he was overblown in his negative aspects that was going to come over from DC. And I feel like he's getting the opportunity to rewrite that, and he is rewriting the hell out of that book on himself. And I love it.
Yeah, when people look at Harper from his days in D.C., they remember the fight charging the mound against Hunter Strickland last year. They remember the dugout fight with Papelbon, which I thought was hilarious at the time, because at the time we all hated Harper, and at the time we also all hated Papelbon because he was kind of a dick here in Philly. That was pretty funny.
Kind of. Jonathan Papelbon, by the way, is the reason I'm dating Stephanie.
That's really a crazy fact right there.
I should definitely send him a thank you letter. I had knee surgery the same year that her father had knee surgery. I rarely use social media, and when I did, I was basically just ripping Jonathan Papelbon for how fucking awful he is and was, which is crazy to think back and look back on him like he wasn't that bad here.
Still the all-time saves leader, speaks more about the history of the Phillies franchise than anything.
Worst franchise in sports. The Phillies are a fucking joke. But I remember posting something, and Stephanie, huge Phillies fan, huge baseball fan, and she had, not DM me, whatever they call it, private messaged me on Facebook and was like, hey, you going to a home opener by chance? Also, what did you do to your knee? My dad had surgery too. And I was like, oh, I fucking hate Jonathan Papelbon. I am 100% going to boo him on opening day. I'm going. Also, I tore my ACL. And then here we are, 7-8 years later, and here she is. So, Jonathan Papelbon, thanks, man. I appreciate
how things work out.
Yeah. I am significantly out of my league because of you. Any final notes here on Harper, the maturation process? Any congratulations towards him and his family or anything of the sort?
No, I just wanted to say congratulations to Bryce. It's an awesome thing having the first kid, and raising to be a future Hall of Fame baseball player himself. Hopefully for the Phillies.
One can hope. All right, so let's move into a game of Would You Rather. So last week we started doing this segment a little bit, or reintroduced this segment, and I think we each get, what did we do last week? 3? I think we did 3 each.
I think so, yeah.
All right, so this week
I have 2 prepared today.
Perfect. So we went with one kind of serious and then one a little bit sarcastic. So Rob, I will turn it to you first. You can select dealer's choice. You can ask me your serious or your sarcastic one.
I'll go with the serious one first, just because that's the order I have them written in here.
That makes sense.
All right, so let's say this upcoming offseason, the Phillies, they're going to be going after both these guys, obviously, but say they can only get one. Who would you rather have, Anthony Rendon or Garrett Cole?
Garrett Cole.
I knew you would say that.
Yep.
And I'm 100% with you on that.
Yeah, it is an interesting theory and thought because there's 2 things about the Rendon thing that I love. One, it does theoretically make Rhys Hoskins expendable. Okay. I'm not in love with the idea of trading him. This is the worst time to trade a player like that. But you'd be actively removing a key cog in the Nationals lineup and in their franchise out of DC. That's pretty big. That's 2 wins right there. It's the same thing as Harper, coming here. So it's interesting, but I just, with how bad our starting pitching is, it has to be Garrett Cole for me. I think that it overtakes and overshadows what the double win would be of getting an Anthony Rendon.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. We really need another starter to complement Aaron Nola in the rotation. Right now, it's Aaron Nola, and it's a whole bunch of nobodies after him. they really need some starting pitching help. As much as I would love to have Rendon here, and hopefully we can get both, the priority should be Garrett Cole.
Yes, I 100% agree. All right, so you went serious. I will also go serious. People leave Philadelphia who are like average players or not so great players, and it doesn't always happen this way, but it certainly feels this way. Pivetta has been dog shit this year. There's literally no other thing I can say. He is a mental fucking midget. He is an idiot. I don't know what's going on with the guy who has as much talent as he has to suck. It would pain me if he is good at his next stop, if it happens to not be in Philadelphia. So, would you move on from Nick Pivetta knowing his next stop, no matter where it may be, he turns himself into like a Josh Hader-like reliever, and he's an elite guy, goes multiple innings, he's filthy out of the pen? Or he stays in Philadelphia and he's nothing more than a serviceable 6th or 7th. So you'd either be getting a serviceable middle reliever who's very replaceable, or he's going somewhere else and you'd have to watch him be unbelievably lights out.
This is a really tough decision, but I think that the Phillies, currently they lack bullpen depth as much as they lack starting pitching depth. That kind of has to do with a lot of guys being on the IL. But if he could be a serviceable reliever, I'd rather keep him here. I don't want him back in the rotation ever again. That experiment has been tried and failed numerous times. So if they could keep him in the bullpen, use him as a middle reliever or a long reliever, and he's serviceable, he doesn't have to be great. He just has to be, average, decent. I'd rather have him here.
Me too, because I would not handle it well watching Nick Pivetta be lights out somewhere else. I would be so pissed off that the Phillies couldn't find a way to make that work. I don't think it's going to be here in Philadelphia, by the way. I genuinely feel like in order for Nick Pivetta to ever snap out of his mental issues that he clearly has and grow up and mature, it's got to be outside of Philly. But yeah, that one sucks. Why don't you give me your sarcastic one here?
All right.
Let's lighten it up.
My sarcastic one is, would you rather watch every 76ers game sitting next to LJ with him loudly rooting for the opponent, or would you rather eat a pickle?
This is the worst question I have ever had in my entire existence. I actually think I'd rather eat a pickle.
Holy shit.
Like, this might be the thing.
Holy shit.
I know last week that I actively chose to give up a World Series because I wouldn't eat a pickle, but you have no idea the disdain I have for our fellow AMYP host over there at the Kelly Green Hour than listening to his fake ass sit here and cheer on every other goddamn team in the NBA, all smug and just assholeian. I think I'd have to eat a pickle over that fucking scenario. 82 games a year of that ass clown sitting next to me? Hell no.
Finally found the one where the pickle wins.
That's the worst question anyone has ever asked me. That is terrible. Oh, all right. Congratulations, you found one. Well done. I don't know what that says for me, by the way, of last week's answer of I would not just take a bite of a pickle.
It says a lot for LJ.
It says a lot for him. That's true. All right, so mine is significantly less funny, but given your current state of rant and disdain for Sean Rodriguez, I have a question for you. Would you rather, you can write a reference in order to take one additional member into your very esteemed cigar lounge to watch Eagles football games, relax, and unwind, anything like that. One of these two has to go with you.
Okay.
Is it Sean Rodriguez, or is it the Don? Do you take Donald Trump?
I would take the Don.
You're a fucking animal.
I would take the Don. I feel like the Don has a lot more wild and crazy stories to tell everybody than Sean Rodriguez does.
Of course he does, but you're like immediately associated with an ass clown.
Whatever. He's still a good time, you know? He could tell those awesome stories and have everybody in the whole damn cigar lounge cracking up.
I can't... man, I don't like how easily you answered that question. Oh,
Sean Rodriguez just seems like a boring person. He seems like the kind of guy who, I forget what I said to my friend on Twitter the other day. He seems like the kind of guy who could get through a whole day eating a piece of eggplant seasoned with grass.
What the fuck?
He's a boring-ass hippie is what he is. Donald Trump's got, 71, 72 years worth of stories to tell.
Well, that's absurd. Slightly disappointed, I got to say, but I respect the decision nevertheless. So, all right. So each week we're not each week, but on lighter news weeks or weeks where we need a little bit of laugh here, we're gonna enter in some additional would you rather's here for in Kap We Trust. So, kicking it back over to the Phillies side of things, wildcard position is a statement that I'm really tired of hearing. This team doesn't deserve to be anywhere near the postseason. They don't deserve to be playing games that matter in September. The fans do not deserve right now sitting here and having to watch this team night in and night out, because there is still a 7.5% chance, or whatever the number is, that they could conceivably make it into the postseason. They're driving me fucking crazy. They needed to handle business in Miami. They did not. They needed to handle business at home against Pittsburgh, which they have split so far. That's fucking maddening. Took, extra innings one night and then a Rhys error to lose the next game.
We had a hard time beating them out in Pittsburgh, too.
We did have a hard time beating them out in Pittsburgh. And then after that, this does not get easy. Like, the rest of our schedule is not an easy time throughout September.
The silver lining here is that we play better against good teams, apparently.
We do play better against good teams, and the other part of this is if we play well against these teams and we start to take 2 out of 3, a lot of these teams that we're playing are teams that are either right ahead of us or kind of right in line and right behind us for this for the second wild card spot. If we can get hot, we are playing the competition that we're doubling up in terms of how many games we can jump at a time. That's pretty fucking important. And it drives me goddamn crazy because I feel like they're going to take this down to game 160, 161, 162. And honestly, for as much as I love Phillies baseball and for as much as I want postseason right now, I'd rather fucking not. I'm exhausted. Like, I'm getting wrinkles. I'm stressed every day. I don't sleep well. I wake up and I'm like, coffee's not even going to settle me right now. I'm so angry at the Phillies, even if they won the night before. Man. Like, I don't need this in my existence. Where are you at right now with we're entering September, rosters are about to expand. This is where certain teams can just get white hot and ride that into the postseason. Where are you at emotionally with this team?
Well, first off, let me just throw a number your way, and this is by my own calculation, so it might be a little bit off because I couldn't find the exact number on Baseball Reference today. They're 28-26 against sub 500 opponents this season. That's bad.
Not good.
They're what are they? They're 5 games over 500. They're only 2 games over against sub 500 opponents, which means that they actually have a better record. They're 3 games over against teams that are above 500.
Remove the Marlins along that same fucking thought process, and we're in a fighting chance for the division lead right now, not just a wild card.
That's sad.
That's absurd.
That's sad. They're 7-9 against the Marlins this year, when realistically through 16 games they should be 11-5, 12-4 against them.
Yep.
That's unbelievable. But yeah, because of the fact that they've played down to the level, they're turning out to be the Flyers. They play down to the level of their bad opponents. They play up to the level of the good opponents. And that doesn't leave a good taste in my mouth, because when you play against bad teams, you need to take advantage of them. You need to go out there and whoop their ass. You need to go down and sweep the Marlins. You need to go out and sweep the Pirates. You can't just 2 out of 3 against the Pirates at home at this point in the season is not acceptable. You need to win every single game against those bad opponents. So because of that, and just because the what's been going on with Hoskins and a few other players, and the fact that they've been playing really inconsistent baseball over the past few months, I'm no longer emotionally invested in this team making the playoffs. If they do, great. If they don't, whatever. I'm not gonna tie my stress levels to it. But with that being said, the fact that they do play better against good opponents, and they have a number of good opponents lined up, if they do get hot down the stretch, I'll start to become excited for it. I'll start to become, a little bit more emotionally invested and start thinking, hey, maybe they actually do have a chance here. But as of right now, I'm not thinking about the postseason.
Yeah, for me, I can't get excited, and I can't get excited because I've ridden that wave too many times this year. I just put out an article about 3 different series where the Phillies had the opportunity to kind of maximize on momentum and carry a positive stretch, and they had reinstilled faith into their fan base, into the city, and they looked like they were starting to turn a corner, and they were starting to get it. And then they embarrassingly go out there and lose 2 of 3 or get swept or whatever the situation may be. I can't sit here and keep getting excited to get my heart ripped the hell out against bad teams and bad series. I can't watch them go up against wild card contending teams that are ahead of us and us beat the hell out of them and then play a team that's a game or 2 behind us and lose 2 out of 3. It doesn't make sense for me. You can't go out there and sweep the Cubs in the way that you did. And then, I don't remember who the hell they played right after the Cubs.
Padres.
Right, San Diego, and they lost 2 out of 3. Took first game in that series and lost back-to-back. They beat Paddock out there in Game 1, who hasn't been as hot as he started, but still a damn good pitcher. And then they couldn't do anything after that. Like, it was awful. This team, I can't allow myself to sit here and get hyped up again. I will kind of go. My interest my interest has to be here because we fucking have a podcast on the Phillies, so I guess it's kind of important that I keep watching to some extent. But emotionally, I'm sitting here, and if they make it into the postseason at this point, okay, it's really positive. It marks a really nice kind of turnaround or a significant collapse by those in front of them, and regardless of any way you cut it up, the fact that, and this is completely removing my disdain for this team right now aside, if they genuinely are playing meaningful baseball games and they have to grind it out, as Kapler sits there and says after every fucking post game, if they have to grind it out straight through to the final series, straight through to Game 162, and their playoff hopes are still on the line, that helps accelerate the maturation process of some of these young guys, some of the guys who have not been in the postseason, and it builds that chemistry in the locker room that much further in a way that being completely out of it in the 6th month of a season can't do. So I hope that they're playing meaningful baseball by numbers standpoints. Emotionally, I can't get behind that right now.
Yeah, the only thing that could come positively if they don't make the playoffs, but if they're in the hunt throughout the month of September is, like you said, guys like Kingery and some of the younger players who haven't been, in playoff contention before. That'll be some key experience for them going forward, much like it was for, the 06 and 07 Phillies leading up to their World Series win in 08. And also, you hope that it leaves a sour taste in their mouth.
Yes.
You hope that it leaves them pissed off going into next season.
You hope it's the Joel Embiid crying moment for the entire roster of Philadelphia Phillies.
Exactly.
Reality has sunk in. You were I don't want to say World Series favorite walking into the season, but you were certainly a favorite in the NL East and a top contender in the NL. And you've been embarrassed all year. You have not been a true and consistent competitor, and that cannot feel good. One thing that does get them, or could get the fan base excited, and people like me, is with rosters expanding and you don't have that penalty of a call-up and a service time request there for your young guys. Spencer Howard theoretically could come up. It doesn't look like he's going to. He certainly looks more than ready to be here. What's your thoughts on the impact that Spencer Howard could have on you and your excitement level every 5th day, or if he's a bullpen piece for us in September, kind of the way that David Price was in 08?
Why the hell not? I mean, look how depleted our starting rotation is. It certainly wouldn't hurt to have him up in the starting rotation as a 4th or 5th guy throughout these September games.
I think he'd be your number 2. Well, number 3. Jason Vargas has actually been okay.
I mean, if you're really seriously trying to contend for that second wild card spot, then maybe I could see why they would have some second thoughts about putting him in there. You don't exactly want to go with a guy who's never pitched in the major leagues before suddenly throwing in really important games in September trying to get into the playoffs.
David Price, Walker Buehler,
it's happened before. It's not an ideal situation though, and that's why I could see them not putting him in the rotation. But personally, I think he's a better option than the last 3 guys that we have in our rotation right now.
At least 2 of them, if not the 3rd there as well. I am very much so of the opinion, bring up Spencer Howard. He has shown AA is the real test. We hear it all the time. AAA is kind of just that last spot just to continue to fine-tune a little bit more. You're facing more former big leaguers or fringe big leaguers versus elite prospects in AA. But if you can cut it at AA more often than not, you have a fighting chance in the majors. And he has certainly done that in his half a season right now in Reading. He is personally, when you take a look at the last, 20 years of Phillies prospects that were pitchers, you can, Cole Hamels, like Brett Myers was kind of serviceable. You've, like I said, Cole Hamels and Aaron Nola. Spencer Howard is the next guy, in my opinion. One could have made the argument that it was Sixto Sanchez. I don't know that he's ever going to remain healthy enough to be a starter for a long period of time in his career. He's a little guy who throws hard, and he's got a violent kind of delivery. Adonis Medina, I really don't think is a starting pitcher by any stretch. Like right now, the guy's Spencer Howard. This team needs that next pitcher, needs that next homegrown developed guy. They got to bring him up. I am of the opinion to put him in the rotation. I would not sit here and waste time with him and throw him in the bullpen and say, here, pitch in some high leverage situations. To me, that's not okay. I would much rather him walk out there with a clean slate every fifth day, start a baseball game, and just be told, look, go anywhere from 4 to 6 innings tonight. Don't worry about your pitch count. We'll get you out of there at a manageable place. Just pitch. That's it. I would rather that than him coming in here with like bases loaded and nobody out and have to get out of that jam. Otherwise, we're down 3, 4, 5 runs. That to me, that does not sound like a good setup for a guy who's walking into the majors. But I would certainly be more excited for him pitching in that situation than fucking anyone else in the Phillies. With rosters expanding along that same thought, I think of all the prospects, I think the only one that has a chance to kind of come up and play is Spencer Howard. But we should see the return of some Phillies who have been on the roster at some point this year. We should see Michael Franco come back up, who was sent down hilariously on his 27th birthday the other day. Nick Williams will come back. Pivetta will come back. J.D. Hammer possibly. Maybe, actually, I don't even think, is Phil Gossens got, he's with the Iron Pigs, but I don't think he's on the 40-man anymore. But we're going to see some of these guys come back. What, if anything, do you kind of see out of the Francos, Williams, and Pivettas and Hammers that are coming back?
I don't know if I see much aside from, I think Franco, when he does come back, he's probably going to start getting at least maybe 50% of the playing time at third base. Just because he is, despite the error, the key crushing error that he made, the first game of the Marlins series?
Yes.
Where they blew a 7-0 lead, ended up losing 19-11 or whatever it was. He made a big error in that game that kind of contributed to the Marlins' big rally there. But with that being said, he's the best defensive option at third base in a team that kind of struggles a little bit defensively. Offensively, he's been bad this season, but we know what he is capable of when he goes on those little one week hot streaks that he has every so often. So you just hope that's the case. You bring him back up, he starts hitting the ball a little bit, he plays good defense. He's an upgrade over Brad Miller, and defensively an upgrade over Kingery, which means that you can put Kingery somewhere else, maybe put him out in center field or something like that.
I don't know. Dickerson's really fucking good.
Dickerson's been playing really well, but if you bring Franco back up and he starts playing well, it's only a good thing, a good problem to have for the Phillies.
Sure. Yeah, and it kind of lets other guys fall back into the role that they should be in and allow them the opportunity to be successful. It pushes Rodriguez into a true bench role. It pushes Brad Miller into a true bench role. These guys aren't going to be asked to start baseball games in September. They're going to be asked to come up here and get one hit in one spot, and that's it. And I think that's how you maximize guys like Miller and guys like Sean Rodriguez. So you're right. It can only help. I don't have any faith in him whatsoever, but it can only help. So we'll kind of transition away from any of September baseball right now. And I want to talk a little bit about, because we haven't talked about it yet, Cesar Hernandez, again, lofts a ball out there off the right field wall, thinks it's gone, jogs to first, gets a single out of something that should have been a double. Was kind of saved by the fact that Hoskins actually hit a home run for a change and made some solid contact. But the next day, and I don't know if you paid attention to this kind of story or not, the next day he was removed from the starting lineup and Gabe Kapler had said that, yes, it was in response to yesterday's lack of hustle, for a lack of better words. Media then asked Cesar Hernandez about it, and Cesar, through his translator Diego, or whatever the hell the guy's name is, I can't remember now offhand, basically stated, no, as far as I know, it's just a regular day off. There's a miscommunication there that is not exactly what Gabe Kapler is all about. He keeps people very well informed in his clubhouse, and they all pretty much answer questions the same way. This is the second time that we've seen it, where he's actually benched someone. First was Michael Franco. The only other time that he's kind of ripped a player was Nick Pivetta, who fucking deserved it. Do you think this is too little too late, not only for the clubhouse and players, but for the fans to kind of see this side of Gabe Kapler?
It's better than nothing. But yes, I do agree that it's too little too late. Obviously, I would rather have him go out now and bench a guy like Cesar for not hustling, but this should have been done earlier in the season. This should have been done to Segura when he didn't hustle out in San Diego. This should have been done to Cesar when he had that incident where he didn't hustle. I think it was maybe a couple games after the Segura incident.
Yeah, I think it was in Atlanta. He had a leadoff single.
It was in either Atlanta or D.C., one of those two.
It was a divisional game.
Yeah. But, Cesar had an incident. He might have even had two incidents earlier in the season.
Each of them have had a few.
Yeah. And nothing was done up until now. So, yes, it's definitely too late, but better late than never.
Do you think that, because this goes so against the grain of what Cap kind of believes in and what he's shown he would prefer to do you think moves like that are beginning to look desperate on his part in order to regain approval from the fans?
Yes.
You do?
Absolutely. I think he's looking to regain approval from the fans, and he's also looking to regain some approval from the front office and the
front office
ownership.
Fucking loves him. Like, I don't think there's a thing that he can do. But the fans, obviously, not so much. And the front office, in response to the fans, obviously, at a certain point, they're going to move on from the guy. I have a very different philosophy on benching players than what I think would be the norm and what would be accepted here in Philadelphia. So I'll save that for just a moment. So while on Gabe Kapler, let's go to in defense of Gabe. This is something that we have not done in several weeks now, but we are going to begin to again reintroduce some of these inter-segment bits here to, I don't know, add a little bit more humor or different situations and different, conversational topics here. So in defense of Gabe is something where we discuss any point, baseball referenced or not, that we will blindly defend to the end of time, and that very little, if anything, could change our minds on that fact. So today we have each prepared two. One thing baseball related and one thing not. At least I think that's what I have. Is that what you have?
Yeah, that's what I got.
Solid. So let's both start with our baseball first. Why don't you start it off?
Bryce Harper.
What are you defending about?
Pretty much everything. The only time I wouldn't defend Harper is if he had an incident where he wasn't hustling. Other than that, I mean, he's been victimized by so much unfair criticism and basically everything from the Philadelphia sports media and the fans throughout the season. People getting pissed off about the fact that the team's paying $330 million and he's hitting $250. He draws so much unfair criticism in comparison to the other players on this roster, and because of that, I'm a Bryce apologist pretty much. I'll even admit to that, but I will defend Bryce for anything except for not hustling. And I don't think we have to worry about that with Bryce because he's shown time and time again he is a hustle guy.
Oh, yeah. Almost borderline to the port of fault. He is out there taking extra bases and stealing when you probably shouldn't, and I love it. There's something to respect in a player as that type of mindset there, who's always looking to give his team even that 1% extra advantage. And he brings that every single play he's involved in, so good for him. I mentioned it before. Mine is in relation to benching players. I think that it is fucking meaningless and pointless to give a human being a day off for doing something incorrect. To me, I sit there and I look at Cesar Hernandez, and we saw the response that the crowd gave to Sean Rodriguez after his comments, right? Comes up to bat, he gets booed. People are booing Rhys Hoskins right now every time he strikes out. All this happens. had this theoretically happened, Cesar Hernandez lofts that ball, doesn't get benched in that game, but then the next day he's still in the lineup at home, say, he's getting fucking booed. That's just what's happening. I would rather my player get booed and fucking embarrassed at home. Walk your ass out there. I would make him walk out fucking first to second base the way that they do for, like, returning ex-Phillies who take the field first, like they did for Cole Hamels in his last start. He ran out to the pitcher's mound alone, and his team kind of hung back as like this is a cool moment for you, and he gets showered with cheers. Nope. I would like Cesar Hernandez to go out there and sit his ass on the second base bag while 40-some thousand people in Citizens Bank Park boo the fuck out of him. And then you're either going to hear that message or you're going to fucking not. But sitting your ass in a secluded dugout there, away from everybody, not playing, getting a day off, and like your manager's going to go to the media, for the most part. This is not exactly work or relevant to the current benching, since Gabe did finally come and say, no, this isn't response to yesterday. But for the most part, Gabe's going to sit there and defend his guys. Well, what am I learning? I just had a fucking day off. That's all. Like, that's literally all I'm going to take about it. I'm going to go out and I'm probably going to do the same fucking thing. What I think is more important in this is that you have a very, very, very strong leadership within the clubhouse amongst players or additional coaches or staff of any kind that can come in there and really make that message heard. I think it's more important that when you embarrass your family, and that's exactly what they are now, it's exactly what every organization in professional sports is. You are a family. When you embarrass the family, that cannot feel good. And if you're just rewarded with a day off, you're not fucking learning anything. To me, that's where the Bryce Harpers, the Rhys Hoskins, the Andrew McCutcheons, if it's Charlie Manuel, even at this point, if it's a fucking strength coach, whomever it is that goes over there and lays into him, that's what's going to matter. Not getting a day off. Benching players is fucking pointless.
Yeah, I kind of see it the other way. I see it like a lot of these players actually want to be out there, and when they get benched, when they don't get to play, it's a punishment to them. I mean, you have guys like Real Muto who appreciate the day off every once in a while because they play a physically demanding position, or at least Real Muto does, and he could benefit from a day off here and there. But by and large, these guys want to be out there. They want to be playing every day. And when you bench them, it sends a message to them that if you're not going to play hard, then you're not going to get your wish of being out there every single day. So if you want to earn your playing time and earn the chance to prove your worth and maybe play towards another contract, then you better start busting your ass out there.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think it's severe enough. You know, in my opinion, it's if you're going to bench someone and that's the statement, it takes them away from the game. I think it should be a suspension. Like, I think it should be like loss of pay. You're going home for 3 days. You're getting fucking sent down if you have options, in response to this. Or if it's within trade season, fucking, you're going to fucking Seattle. Good luck. Like, that's the type of shit that I would see being heard. Like, that's the type of thing that puts some energy into a player, says, I can't fucking be lazy again. So I will forever defend the fact that benching players is fucking dumb. But let's go to our non-baseball related defense. Why don't you go first?
Mine would be taking the train to Philadelphia as opposed to driving.
Okay. You prefer it?
I prefer taking the train, yeah. I hate driving through the city, especially 95 when it gets backed up, or the expressway when it gets backed up. It's just a nightmare, and it still might take not as long to drive, but at least on a train you're actually moving, and you don't have to worry about being behind the wheel, whereas in the car you're just sitting there kind of doing nothing while traffic's in a complete standstill. So it might take longer by train, but it doesn't feel as long because the train's actually moving. You're focused on other things. You can doodle around on your phone or whatever and not have to worry about just wasting time sitting in traffic.
If I lived where I used to live and I could just take Paper Mill Ave and take all back roads down there, I would drive every single time. But now, after taking the train with you, last year, a couple of years ago, a few games that we went to, I'm with you on that, man. It is significantly better than sitting your ass on 95 and then leaving that parking lot afterwards.
The only drawback to taking the train if we're going to a game is if the game goes to extra innings, you got to leave before the game's over because the last SEPTA train out of Center City leaves at like 11:30, which is kind of ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. You
I don't know.
went
It
to
might be
LA
like
Dodgers
12:30,
thing, right?
Yeah, the game that went.
Yeah.
That was funny though, because I think I left it for the 10th inning, right? And
Something like that.
I got on the subway, took that to Center City, got on the regional rail there, took that out to North Wales. I got in my car at North Wales, and that's when I forget who it was. Trevor Plouffe hit a walk-off home run as I was driving home from the train station.
That was such an absurdly long game.
He hit it off of Kike Hernandez.
I know.
That was hilarious.
All right, so that's a good take, by the way. I can appreciate that one. My last one will surprise you and all of our listeners who listen to Whiskey Ramble or Backyard Beers and Football. While I do not drink, I do think that the tastiest, most satisfying drink on the planet is bourbon. It is so fucking good. I cannot get enough.
But you don't drink.
I don't drink, but
Are you just going?
whether I'm using it to cook, whether if you put it in coffee for a little bit, like that's not drinking. I'm sorry, that's an exception. That's just a little kick. You know, if you're not feeling super great, and you just want to have something a little strong but still smooth, like that to me is better than medicine. That's not drinking.
I thought you were just going by word of mouth through Steve here.
No. So Steve likes everything because it makes him not feel. But no, it is 100% the best drink that you could possibly have. So one final thought here before we get to our actual final thought. The AMYP team is now using the WhatsApp feature. So if you guys download the WhatsApp, you guys can communicate with us throughout games, after games, before games, throughout the week. If you're taking a shit and you want to sit there and you got a thought that comes to your brain, that's basically where almost all of our ideas for each show segment come up to.
That's where I do my fantasy trades.
There you go.
Just like Ruxin,
yep. So anytime you guys have thoughts for things of the sort, if you go to our website, it's www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. If you go to the contact tab, scroll down to the bottom and you will see a link there that will show you and give you the numbers for the WhatsApp feature. You guys can message us, send us in your questions, your takes. If you want to rant, if you want to hear yourself on a rant, I will download it and put that into the podcast, and then we will respond to it. So if the Phillies piss you off as much as they piss me off and you want to be heard, also note that this is an explicit pod, so you can say whatever the hell you want. I will not black out anything. So try to keep your rants to 30 to 60 seconds. No longer than that. We're each probably a little breathy on some of our rants here. So for our listeners, try to keep it to that time frame. But definitely start to interact with us that way. Your questions will also be answered via that as well. If you are still utilizing the email, you certainly can continue to do that. Again, that is it is anypodcastteam@gmail.com. And then, as always, you can get us on Twitter at ANYPodcast. You can get Rob at radio_Rob. You can get me at Shane_Mead. So let's go to a final thought here for In Kap We Trust. Rob, you got anything interesting for us?
That first game of the Marlins series was the most embarrassing thing I can ever remember as a Phillies fan. Going up 7-0 in the third inning, Velasquez managed to piss the whole entire lead away within, 1/3 of an inning?
Yep.
And then the rest is history. The Marlins went on a 19-2 run, I think, which is the Marlins take a damn week to score 19 runs, and they did that in
19-4.
19-4, something like that, yeah. But either way, the Marlins take a damn week to score 19 runs, and they did it in 6 2/3 innings.
It was bad.
Yeah,
that
was the most embarrassing memory I've ever had as a Phillies fan. Actually, no, it's close. It's the time the Mets scored like 25 runs against us last year.
Yeah, it was less than pleasurable.
That was two very embarrassing memories.
Yeah, not great, man. Not great. I'd already kind of given my final thought earlier, but it was just the fact that if you did remove the Miami Marlins from, or the win-loss record against the Marlins from each of the other teams in the division, the Phillies would be within reasonable striking distance of the division right now, which is absolutely mind-boggling to me. So shout out to, I think 3 people came up with that. It was Spader, Salisbury, and Johnny Heller. So to each of you, well done. Interesting stat that made me want to jump off a bridge.
Can we just relegate the Marlins to AAA so we don't have to play them?
I don't know, man. I would
Maybe I should
welcome
relegate
it.
the Phillies to AAA.
Maybe. Maybe so. They are not a great team. But that's pretty much going to be it here for In Kap We Trust. Rob and I will be back with an additional segment shortly after this, and it is Backyard Beers and Football. If you have not yet listened to that segment, you are doing everything wrong in life. Of the two Eagles podcasts that are represented here at ANYP, this is the one you should listen to. So if you're over there and you're one of the regular weekly listeners of the Kelly Green Hour and you're sitting there getting bombarded by stats that are all very smart and people who are significantly better speakers than we are in Connor and LJ, just fucking come over to our side. We make you laugh. We make you cry. We make everything good.
They're smarter than we are, but we're funnier.
Yes. They're smarter, better prepared, and better spoken, but we have additional content that make it worth it. We are the Good Eagles podcast.
Don't get it wrong. You should totally listen to them, too.
You should listen to them, but...
Listen to us. We should be your first priority.
You should. Quick word from our sponsor over at Just Food. It is Just Food, 215-794-FOOD, 215-794-3663. Treat yourself. Take it home. Go visit our guy, Asian Rob, over there at his in-store location in Buckingham Green Shopping Center in Bucks County, PA. Find yourself something delicious to eat there. So I had bacon wrapped scallops again the other day, and that was a hell of a treat. So, Rob, thanks, man. Appreciate it. It is almost football season, so he's going to be catering a few of our games for us. The Sunday evening games, in particular, are the ones that we typically get some takeaway food from him. And all of our guests here at Casa de Mead love that. So, Asian Rob, one, we know you listen. Thanks. We appreciate all the delicious food that you continue to provide for Eagles football weeks for us here at the home. And thank you for giving all of our ANYP listeners excellent food with reasonable prices. It's Just Food, 215-794-FOOD, 215-794-3663. Treat yourself. Take it home. We're going to turn this over to the Jackdaws now to take us out of In Kap We Trust. Rob, I will see you next week.
With the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such eagle my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.